So where do we network? You might have learned all about, how to be a networker, what the value of being a networker is, but where do you go and network? Where do you start this process of connecting with other people? So we start off with understanding what kind of networks there are out there. The networks can be what we call open networks, where they're open to people to come into there. There's no real obligations there. You might be a member network where you need to be in a particular industry to become a member. And there's what we call the closed referral networks, which are more like those givers gain, BNI style chapter networks. And then there's what we call masterminds. So let's have a look at what all these different networks are. So you can choose wisely when it comes to the network that you want to work within. An open network generally requires no membership. It's an open invitation. Anyone can come along and they can be part of it. They can network, meet people, see their friends, get a free booze, free food sometimes, and just connect with people in a really, really open and casual way. They're not usually well facilitated. It's just turn up, have a drink, talk to the people you know, and then we'll get on with the speaker. That's generally what open networks are like. And they tend to be those local council and government sponsored events where you all turn up to Parliament House or Town Hall and it's a bit open. You kind of look for the person you know and sort of stick to them because there's no one facilitating the introductions to people. It could be open days with those closed or member networks where you're invited in to experience what it's like in those networks. That can be a really good way of introducing people to those so that it's a bit more casual than what it normally would be. Business women's networks could be these. So there could be the only qualification to get into this network is that you're a woman. And so that becomes something that's very easy for you to go into because going into a room of other women. Youth business networks tend to be quite open as well. They want to invite in as many young people as possible to connect with each other and help support each other through what's sometimes not a world that's very friendly to younger entrepreneurs and younger business starters. And then there's those local small business networks, which not so much your chambers of commerce, but more like a little small business network that might have been started up in the local area. We've got one here called the Darwin City Retailers Association, and so they're not a chamber of commerce, but they're a collective who get together quite easily. And these are an open network that you need to be part of a particular geography to be able to join it, but it's not a huge thing that you have to go through criteria to get in. Now, your member networks usually require some kind of membership, and you need to be invited into those by a member. They often like a referral. You come in there and then you get qualified as a member and voted in by a committee. These member networks tend to be very industry specific, like the Skull Club is, which is an affiliation of tourism operators and travel people who work in tourism and travel industries. Or it could be something like the Energy Club, which is a connection of people who work in mineral extraction and gas and oil and those kind of areas. Or it could be that it's the Organic Producers Collective. And as a part of that, or the Agri-Food Business Network on the Sunshine Coast is a very good example of this, where you have a very specific thing that brings you together. You're all working in agribusiness and food production. It could be an Indigenous or a nationality-based networks. It could be the China-Australia Association. It could be the Australia-India Trading Association. It could be the Indigenous Business Network or IBA Australia, the Indigenous Business Association. Any of those are generally around a common theme or a common industry, chambers of commerce over a common area. Other industry peak bodies like the REIs or the REINT, the REIWA, REIQ, real estate institutes tend to connect people within real estate. Regional tourism associations, whether it's Whitsundays Tourism, Far North Queensland Tourism, Tourism Top End, Tourism Central Australia, Tourism Southwest, whatever those are, Kimberley Tourism as well, they're all gained around a specific area that everyone will have in common who becomes part of that network. And there could be then religious business network, or Christian businessmen's networks, or Christian business women's networks, or the Islamic Business Association, or Buddhist Business Networking International. Any of those those areas that have a very common theme can be very easy to come into as someone who also shares that common theme with the members. Your closed referral networks are definitely a membership required, and there's only really one member of each type of business. So you're not going to run into competitors quite as easily as you do in the member networks and the open networks. In fact, with the member networks, you can almost guarantee if it's an industry based, just about everybody's going to be a competitor. So the networking you're doing there is not necessarily networking for work. It might be networking for sharing some resources and getting industry knowledge, but it's a very different approach. In these, membership costs are generally a lot higher. They're regular or weekly event costs as well, where you need to go across every week to do a $25 breakfast. And there could be the referral of business to members. So it's not like you're referring business to the plumber down the road. You're referring the business to the plumber who's in your particular business network chapter or your business network association. These particular networking associations tend to have targets associated with what you do. There's accountability to like traffic light systems that say whether you're doing a good job as a network member or not. And you can actually get kicked out of the network if you're not contributing to the referrals and to the business that's generated within that chapter. So it can be a little bit harder to work at because there are accountable targets in there and an expectation that you turn up almost every week. That then comes with the offset that there is often training and mentoring that's packaged in that allows you to be able to work more effectively and to become a much better networker as well. And I think that's actually a really good opportunity for you to learn way more about networking and how to better reach out to other people, not just within the network, but outside of the network as well. Now we look at masterminds. Masterminds are very small groups, and they have ongoing costs as well as memberships, and they can be quite pricey. In fact, these are probably the most pricey of all the networks you can join because they are so small. Here's a very small group. There's no competitors in the room. You're all from different backgrounds. There's usually just the one facilitator who is not necessarily the one giving out all the advice, but they do have this sort of guru mentality behind them. I'm not a big fan of masterminds. I think they can tend to be very manipulative and controlling. So I don't tend to go to them myself, but some friends of mine absolutely swear by their masterminds. They think they're the best thing they've ever done. There's usually that one facilitator. There's very high accountability factor. So if you don't like being held accountable to goals, not the place for you. And there's also some very intense monitoring that's going on in there too. It allows you to make sure that you are mentoring, not monitoring. Monitoring, it sounded really, really creepy. The mentoring is quite intense because they really are invested in your success as a member of that particular mastermind.